Hello and welcome to the Actuary podcast, produced on behalf of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, the IFOA. I'm John Watkins, a financial journalist, and as ever, your host for this podcast. This is our 9th episode of the podcast now, so if you're enjoying what we do, please subscribe to our YouTube channel where, as well as these brilliant podcasts, you can also find the Actuaries series of informative videos. So, in this episode, we're meeting Emma Stewart, Chief Actuary at Lloyd's of London, David Beddoes, a health actuary in Luxembourg, and Swati Umre, an actuary based in Mumbai. To get us started, we've got Emma Stewart here in the studio with us. She was recently interviewed in the Actuary's January-February issue and is here to tell us a bit more about her story. Emma, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me and my magazine co-star. Hopefully she continues sleeping, but we'll see.
Well, absolutely. So for our listeners that haven't read your January-February interview with us, when we photographed you for that, you were pregnant, and now you have a lovely little girl who's here with us today, keeping nice and quiet in the corner at the moment. And that's your second child. So I guess the obvious question off the back of that is, what's it like being a mum and juggling that with being a full-time busy actuary? And I guess, what are the parallels in those two roles?
Sure. So, I love both, and it's brilliant that I'm able to be on maternity leave at the moment and focusing on the job that needs me the most right now. I think there are a number of parallels. I think both in respect of leadership and having a baby. There's plenty of books written on both of them. None of them, I think, can prepare you for the real thing. But I think the reality for both is that you can read all the theory, but you have to learn your own way of doing things and what's right for you. In terms of differences, as an actuary, I'm constantly looking for patterns to apply logic. I think many parents would agree with me. That does not work with babies and children. Just because she slept for 5 hours one night, if I replicate everything, does not mean the same will happen again. So that's certainly a difference. But my problem-solving skills are definitely getting a good test at the moment. It's amazing how resourceful you can be when you have a nappy disaster in a car park and you've forgotten the changing bag. So.
Well, congratulations, and we're really pleased to have her here with us as well. So you're Chief Actuary at Lloyd's of London, the insurance market. It's a pretty unique organisation, Lloyd's of London. Tell us a little bit about your role and how it fits in an organisation like that.
Yeah, it's a really special role. Essentially, I have the same chief actuary responsibilities like a insurance or reinsurance company would have. So attending board meetings, writing actuarial function opinions, etc. But on top of that, I have the really unique lens of the market oversight piece. So not only looking at sort of Lloyd's as a whole, but responsible for overseeing and supporting the robustness of the reserve setting and the capital sufficiency for the whole market. So it really has a lot of diversity to it, which is one of the reasons in particular why I love it.
And what are some of the challenges around being Chief Actuary in an organisation like that? And I guess on the flip side of that, what do you enjoy the most?
There's so much to do. I think that's one of the main challenges. How do I get round meeting with all the diverse stakeholders of Lloyd's, of the 100 or so syndicates that we have? That's sort of the challenge for me, as well as getting the balance right between making sure that we're implementing an oversight framework that supports the syndicates at the same time as creates a fair landscape, and getting that right for the diversity of the syndicates that we have, having to come up with an approach that is flexible enough and suitable enough for all. That's definitely the challenge. The bit I love the most probably comes back to the diversity, and I love collaborating. So collaborating with the diverse stakeholders that we have. So be that from chief actuaries and underwriters in the market to the international regulators, to other sort of new entrants coming into the Lloyd's market, new capital propositions. That's the bit I love, is sort of the people side of that.
Yeah, and Lloyd's has this very long history and it's a very famous organisation. Does that impact the work that you do compared with being a chief actuary in other organisations, I guess? And how does Lloyd's stay modern and competitive in the marketplace?
Yeah, so Lloyd's is well known for its traditions and its roots, going back 337 years. But always we've been at the cutting edge of the business that's being underwritten. So very much supporting innovation. The other thing is in respect of how do we stay modern.
Mm.
It it's all about, we exist as Lloyds as a unique proposition, as the preeminent marketplace for global risk, because of the access that we give, whether that's access to big risks that syndicates can take a share of that they wouldn't be able to take on fully themselves, or the global license network that we have that means that syndicates can access business more easily worldwide. It all comes down to, how do we facilitate and support the syndicates that are looking to write that innovative business, be cutting edge, and support that modernisation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You were made chief actuary at the age of 30, and you said in your interview with us in the magazine that there have been occasions where it's been suggested you were too young for the role, or too young for leadership in in an organisation. Does it surprise you that those attitudes still exist today?
I think there is progress being made, but it is disappointing that I think it is still a feature. It seems to be, particularly, I think, that women that face ageism, they can never be seen to be the right age to take on leadership
Mhm.
or promotion. So they're either too young, too close to parenthood, too old. And I think that does uniquely affect women more than men as well. So it's disappointing, but it, there is more support around, and I think it's about making sure that people, when they're looking to take on a new job, I think visibility is important.
Mhm.
So for people to see a role that they want to step into and not be thinking about, can I mimic the person that did it before me, that might not be too old or too young or too near parenthood, but can I do the job? And how am I going to do the job differently? So you're not thinking about taking on a new role as taking on the role holder's place. You're thinking about the new role as taking on a new opportunity,
Mhm.
because that change and that diversity is going to be good for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the follow-on question from that is, what can the profession, the actuarial profession, do to help improve diversity around those issues?
Yeah, I think we can start with promoting our profession more, and that's just broadly across all diversity. I am one, definitely guilty of, when someone asks me what do I do, say, "Oh, I work in insurance."
Mhm.
Leaving
Mhm.
it there, not taking the risk that someone's gonna be confused when I start explaining any further, or not know what I do. But that's a missed opportunity.
Mhm.
Certainly, I think we need to be shouting about the profession so that we get more diverse sort of cohort interested in joining. And then the other piece is the visibility of what's there, because whilst there may not be the diversity right now that we want to see, showing that it exists, I think is key. So I was really excited when I saw that the cover shot that had been chosen for the Actuary magazine was one that showed off my pregnancy
Yeah,
bump rather than
yeah.
hide it away, to show that it is a feature. There are many brilliant women that I know that have worked pregnant, come back, have children, and we probably just don't talk about it enough, as the possibility to blend whatever it is, whether it's caring responsibilities, parenthood, with having an actuarial career.
Yeah, it's a brilliant cover. It really showed that off. I thought it was fantastic. You also say in your interview with us that actuaries are going to be in more demand as we
Mhm.
go forward, and I understand why you say that. But can you share with our listeners a little bit why you think that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if I think about what an actuary does, it basically is so broad. It's help to make better business decisions. It's no longer, and does not need to be, more narrowly confined than that. So essentially, it's sort of how a management consultant would describe
Hmm.
what they do, but a critical internal partner, not always internal, but internal partner to that. So I think what we're well versed in is any decision. And the things that are our sweet spot are dealing with
Hmm.
uncertainty, dealing with ambiguity, problem solving. So if we think of the world today that's moving at a pace faster than ever before, more complexity
Hmm.
than ever before, and so much change in it, then we have those foundations and skill set to really lend towards those problems, and support solving them, and solving them in a way that doesn't create further problems down the track as well, that forward thinking. And not only that, but the ability to communicate those solutions, why it's the right solution. I mean, with AI becoming more prominent, a brilliant tool, but if we rely on that for answers, actuaries are going to be great at being able to tell you whether those answers are the best answer and why they're the answer, and can they be relied upon as the answer. So I think it's the all-roundedness of the actuarial skill set that sets us up well for adding more and more value in today's world.
Yeah, and finally, one piece of advice that you give to other actuaries, but just starting out in their careers, what would you say?
Sure. I would say have faith that the hard work that you put in will be worth it. That might be exams or that might be the day-to-day job. Don't expect that reward to come linearly, though, and don't expect to put the hard work in consistently. There'll be times in your career when you can dial up and dial down the blend between work, study, home, and that will pay off in different ways over time. And again, that may not all come at once, but have faith that hard work does set you up as best as it can to reap those rewards later on.
Yeah, that's a good message to end on. I have to thank you for your sharing all of your insights on your role, but of course, thank your daughter for sitting so patiently
Yeah.
through our discussion. Thanks so much, Emma.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Emma. It was really great finding out about you and what you do. And do please remember to read the interview with Emma in the January-February issue of the magazine or online at theactuary.com. Now, our second guest, Actuary David Beddoes, is dialing in from Luxembourg. David, good to have you here.
Great, absolute pleasure to be here.
Good stuff. Look, you're a life and health pricing actuary for Swiss Re based in Luxembourg. Can you tell us a bit about your work in reinsurance and how long you've been based out there?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm fortunate to have a role that provides much intellectual variety. I work across many lines of business within Swiss Re, within life and health reinsurance, covering many European countries from my base here in Luxembourg. Within the role, I have a pleasant mix of both technical and client-facing activities. So one day I could be reviewing best estimate assumptions for a specific market and line of business. The next day I could be facilitating client discussions regarding complex reinsurance transactions. And on another day of the week, I might be promoting business-relevant research into biometric trends across our wider life and health pricing community. I've now spent around 11 years here in Luxembourg. So that's around half of my career so far, during two separate spells. And the rest of the time I was in the UK.
Great stuff. Now, you're very involved in volunteering for the IFOA on the health side of things in particular. You're on the Health and Care Board. You co-founded the Population Health Management Working Group, and you're chair of the Health and Care Research Subcommittee. So lots going on there. What would you say the key issues are for actuaries working in the health space in the UK? And is it any different out there in Luxembourg?
Mm. So I'll start by saying that the number of actuaries in the UK working purely in the health and care domain is a relatively small number. But there are many actuaries that have roles that fall under a wider umbrella, such as life insurance or consulting, which may encompass some elements and some exposure to health topics. There's much expertise across the profession regarding how health conditions impact mortality rates and morbidity rates, for modelling and managing, in particular, long-term life insurance business and pension scheme liabilities, for example. However, there's a relatively limited number of actuaries in the UK working on business projects for which the costs of medical and health services are directly relevant. I'd say we're hugely fortunate in the UK and here in Luxembourg, along with many other European countries, to benefit from universal healthcare, which is funded mainly by the state. And these types of national public health systems have traditionally not employed large numbers of actuaries in their operational and financial risk management. So as a profession, most of us will have experience predominantly in the private sector or in other types of organizations. Yeah, you mentioned my involvement in the RFOA community. So particularly with the Population Health Management Working Party and the Health and Care Research Subcommittee. A lot of my involvement there has been to explore and drive forward areas where the actuarial skill set and methods of working could be useful for national health services. And I would say that's as useful and appropriate in the UK as much as in Luxembourg and other European countries. So our involvement as actuaries has been traditionally quite limited, but a lot of the skills and experience that we would have gained through our day jobs are actually very relevant to the wider health sector.
Yeah, that makes sense. At the end of last year, you wrote an IFOA Thought Leadership paper called Prioritising Prevention, Investing for Population Health. It's based on the UK government's plan to reform the NHS in England, emphasising community services, digitalised data, sickness prevention. Can you summarise the thrust of your paper for us?
Yeah, with great pleasure. So I begin the piece with reference to two major ongoing trends. So that's technological transformation and policy transformation. So technological transformation includes things like advances in data. Obviously, in the past few years, past decade even, we've seen huge advances in how data is recorded, how it can be processed. And then very recently, of course, we've got AI coming along, which will disrupt things further and make more advances possible. And then policy transformation, so within the UK and the National Health Service in England, but similar in many countries around the world, there are moves towards more integrated working within national health systems. So getting hospitals to work more closely with the primary care networks, GP practices, or working closely with social care providers. So these trends, they're not new. They've been going on for many years already, but they're still not at the end stage. But they continue to move in the direction that is conducive to how actuarial approaches may support them. And with the UK government's 10-year health plan for England, published last year, for the first time, that was a national health strategy that explicitly proposed that the NHS should pursue a more actuarial approach to health funding. So as the leaders of the NHS are talking about actuarial approaches, then we, as the actuarial profession, should also be talking much more about how we can contribute to health system funding. And so with that background to the piece, I structured it around three themes. So collaboration, long-term thinking, and ring-fencing funding. Alongside those three themes, I highlight four specific initiatives that are outlined in the 10-year plan. And these are initiatives which should resonate with actuarial concepts. The plan for such a large organisation as the National Health Service in England is very complicated, contains a lot of different inputs. Many people have contributed to it. Some of the topics covered and the initiatives within that are perhaps more ambitions or indications of strategic direction rather than immediate practical implementations. However, I pull out four which, as I say, should resonate with actuaries. So number one, year of care payments. So this is a financial mechanism which could underpin the rollout of neighbourhood health centres, which is a key part of the government's plans. Number two, multi-year financial settlements. So very much aligned with the theme of long-term thinking, being able to set budgets and then manage those finances beyond the current 12-year timeframe is really important. Number three, incentives linked to population health outcomes. So the incentives, perhaps the finance directors within NHS organisations are working to, those should be linked to clear health outcomes. And number four, around ring fencing budget, so having a specific part of the ICS budget for preventative health initiatives. So those are the topics and initiatives covered in the paper. And then the piece finishes with a number of areas which I propose where the IFOA and actuaries can perhaps think about doing more to make our voice as a profession heard even more.
Clearly, actuaries and the actuarial profession are a big part of all of the things you talked about there. But just sum up for us exactly why you think actuaries have such a crucial role to play in health financing in the future.
So, having had the opportunity to work on national population health management projects, that really opened my eyes to the role that actuaries could play. It made me reflect on the typical educational and training paths that actuaries follow, and the experience which is usually being gained in commercial organizations, in insurance, reinsurance, consulting. But that experience is highly relevant and totally transferable to organizations within public health systems. So the core actuarial concepts of understanding the data that's available, understanding how demographic and clinical data relates to financial accounting data, how those different types of data can be triangulated, not only understanding that data, but understanding the limitations of it and what can be done to fill any gaps in missing data. Developing models to make long-term projections of population health segments, being very clear on the assumptions that underpinned those projections, developing alternative scenarios. So it's not just a single projection of what we think will happen, but looking at alternatives and assessing the impacts of those, both in terms of uh, financial impacts, but also in terms of population health impacts. Being able to document those steps and crucially communicating outputs of our models in a way that is understandable by the many stakeholders within a national health service. So these are all concepts which actuaries are very useful, are very aware of, and are very useful to health systems. So working with a wide range of stakeholders, taking a long-term view, understanding the probability of future events and alternative scenarios, and being able to communicate those to leaders in the National Health Service, whether that be data leaders, finance leaders, clinical leaders. This is where actuaries can bring their skill and expertise.
Great. And just finally, you're coming over to the UK for the IFOA's second The Big Pitch health and care event this March. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a hugely talented and passionate community of actuarial practitioners, as well as academics and others who do amazing work on research for the IFOA. Many topics relevant not only to actuaries but to wider society. And the Big Pitch event is actually a fantastic event now in its second year. Uh, so it's an in-person only event taking place at Staple Inn in London on Wednesday, the 18th of March, focused purely on health and care topics. It will involve 3 presentations by authors of research papers. These were selected from a very high caliber set of applications. They cover a good range of topics. So behavioral economics within insurance, financial sustainability of the UK public health sector, which is a topic very close to my heart, applications of machine learning relevant to health and care actuaries. So some fantastic content there. After the presentations, the audience will have the chance to put the speakers on the spot and ask questions and give their thoughts as well, and also to vote for their favourite presentation as well. And naturally, there'll be a chance afterwards to catch up with friends and colleagues over drinks. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds really, really good. And David, thank you so much for joining us and talking us through all of that.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, David. It was really fascinating to find out more about health matters and financing from your view over there in Luxembourg. Our final guest today is Actuary Swati Umre, speaking remotely to us from Mumbai in India. Swati, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, good stuff. So let's kick off with a little bit about your current role. You're a partner in life and health for EY in Mumbai. Tell us a bit about your job and what you enjoy about it so much.
So, I actually lead the actuarial transformation and managed services agenda at EY at the moment. And predominantly, my role is working with the markets which are outside of India. So, you can look at it as the US markets, the UK market, Australia, and all of the other fancy, beautiful countries that we have across the world. And As I mentioned, I specifically consult our clients on strategy around product development, strategy around regulatory changes, capital management, or for that matter, just doing the managed services agenda and helping them make their businesses more efficient. And my role combines technical actuarial work with business strategy and people management. And what I enjoy the most about my work at the moment is solving some of the most complex problems of our clients, people management, and mentoring my teams and young actuaries to grow into confident professionals.
Yeah, it's clearly quite diversified in that sense. You've worked at EY for about 14, 15 years now. Has much changed in terms of the profession in that time, both for you personally and I guess for actuaries in India as a whole?
I would say a lot has changed. From when you look at from a professional standpoint, when I started doing actuarial, the profession was largely focused on traditional ways of pricing and valuation. Today, actuaries in India have a seat at the table. They are board members as well, and that is how the business is shifted. They are actually taking responsibilities to driving the strategy of the businesses as well. That's a fundamental change that has happened. Personally, my role has moved on from when I started with EY about 14 and a half years ago to where I am today, from being a highly technical doer to actually now defining strategy for the business as a whole, as well as supporting our clients, and as well as something that comes along with it, which is people management. So my role has also significantly changed.
Yeah. What was it that made you want to become an actuary in the first place? And have you experienced any obstacles in terms of moving up the career ladder?
Well, becoming an actuary was by a fluke. Uh, Started to when you're young, you do have multiple different choices that you have, right? I wanted to become a doctor always, but then I saw a pool of blood and realized that was not for me. And then I went into management courses, which I got a lot of opportunities to go to the UK and study. But I got this one opportunity with Heriot-Watt University to go into actuarial mathematics and statistics. And then I thought, what better way? I could always do an MBA again, but may I just go ahead and try something new and different? So that was my entry into actuarial mathematics and statistics. And ever since then, there has been no looking back. But from a career progression perspective, I would say it comes with learning beyond becoming a technical expert.
Mhm.
And you move on to leadership and communication skills as well. And how can you improve those? That transition can be very challenging, but also very rewarding because that is the career progression that you see. So that's what I have seen in my career as well.
No, brilliant stuff. And you were on the committee that helped to organise the IFOA's India conference at the end of last year. Tell us a little bit about that and what the highlights of that experience were for you.
The IFOA, the first maiden conference of IFOA here in India, was a very rewarding experience, I must say. I think the first part I would say was that the the theme of the conference was very close to my heart, continues to remain very close to my heart, which is actuarial of the future. And that's something that we are building on for the last 10 years now. And how could we progress into a different actuarial profession from the traditional actuarial profession that we were at? But also, there were a lot of youngsters who came together for the conference. And that really is reinforcing how vibrant and forward looking the actuarial community is now becoming. That's very fulfilling for me to see now. And imagine when I started the profession, we were about how many? About 100 actuaries. Today, in this profession itself, we are about close to 1,000.
Wow.
So that is a journey that we've seen for such a long time. It's very fulfilling. So the IFO entering into India was a very rewarding experience for me.
You're also an examiner for the Institute of Actuaries in India. Tell us a little bit about what that entails and what motivates you to do it, I guess.
I think, see, education for me, constant learning is a very fundamental part of the profession. It's very important for you to constantly give back to the profession that has given you so much as well. And that's the true essence of why I became an examiner and how can I give back to the profession, mentor a lot of junior members who join the profession, and how can they actually come and create a similar experience that I have had along with my professional journey. So that's one of the reasons. And also helps me create, I mean, add value from a syllabus curriculum perspective, also add value from really contributing to maintaining high standards of the qualification process itself. That's really, really fulfilling for me.
No, brilliant. And you've clearly got a lot going on. You're very busy, but tell us a bit about your life outside of work, if you could, please. Do you have hobbies? What do you like to do to relax? How do you switch off?
And I love to travel, and spending time with friends and family is something that I cannot compromise on. So
Mhm.
traveling is something that I do a lot outside of work. I like to meet a lot of new people. So traveling really helps me do that, whether it's personal travel or it's professional travel as well. That helps me. Other than that, at the moment, I've actually decided to give myself a little more, started to learn again. So I signed up myself for a Harvard course. So that's something that I'm doing. I just completed module 1 in January. And going forward, I'm looking forward to the next 2 modules as well that are coming up.
Well, we wish you luck with that course, Swati, and we thank you so much for joining us to tell us a little bit about your journey and the work that you're doing there in Mumbai. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you very much.
So, a big thank you to all our guests this episode. We hope that you've enjoyed listening just as much as we've enjoyed speaking to our guests. And do please spread the word and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join us again next time. We look forward to seeing you then.